Rumors have been floating around lately of a Huawei-made Nexus, and this just might be our very first taste of it. I'm Hayato Huseman, bringing you Pocket Now's full video review of the Huawei P8. Here in the States, Huawei is primarily known for making budget handsets targeted at the prepaid market. The P8 is anything but that. Dropping the Ascend brand name found on most high-end Huawei phones, the P8 is the company's latest flagship device and a showcase of exactly what it's capable of. From the aluminum chassis and beveled edges to the ultra-thin design, it looks and feels a lot like the Sony Xperia Z3 or the iPhone 5, and like those two devices, there's no denying that this is a beautiful, well-built handset. It weighs a comfortable 144 grams, and it's just 6.4 millimeters thick. The phone's 5.2-inch 1080p display is an IPS panel coated in Gorilla Glass 3 with fantastic viewing angles and good color reproduction, though it's certainly not the brightest or most vivid panel we've seen. Still, it looks great and can be seen fairly well in harsh sunlight. Above the display sits the 8-megapixel front-facing camera, the earpiece speaker, and the ambient light sensor. The hardware controls for the P8 sit along the right-hand side, consisting of just a volume rocker and a power button, and there are ejectable trays for microSD and nano SIM cards here as well. Especially given its physical similarities to the Xperia Z3, I would have loved to have seen a two-step camera button thrown in here, but that's just a minor complaint for the outstanding hardware. There's a headphone jack and a pinhole microphone at the top of the P8, and speaker and microphone grills on the bottom, surrounding the happiest micro USB port we've ever seen. Seriously, this might be my favorite thing about the phone. Around back, we see Huawei's logo and the 13-megapixel primary camera, an f2.0 Sony RGBW sensor with optical image stabilization and a dual-tone LED flash. The P8 runs Huawei's custom Emotion UI 3.1 on top of Android 5.0 Lollipop. It's pretty far from the typical Android experience we're used to seeing, but if you've used a high-end Huawei phone like the Ascend Mate 7, this isn't much different. There's no app drawer on the home screen, but you can always sort your apps with folders, and anything you can't find, you can pull down anywhere in the home screen to search through apps, contacts, messages, and more in the unified search bar. There's also a search bar in the settings menu, because there are so many options here that it's hard not to get a little overwhelmed. Along with the standard settings, Huawei offers options like one-handed UI, motion controls, and so on. We like the constantly changing wallpapers each time you turn on the display, and the lock screen's quick toggles are reminiscent of Apple's Control Center. Overall, it's a pretty good software experience, but it's not without its quirks. There's a new knuckle sensing feature that's supposed to make taking screenshots quick and easy. Just draw a box with your knuckle to capture a part of the screen, or knock twice for a full screenshot. But all too often, the P8 seemed to have trouble differentiating my knuckle from my finger, and the result was way too many screenshots and missed touch input. There's also the way Emotion UI handles Google notifications, particularly from Gmail, where the subject line is an illegible dark gray font over a black background. Speaking of Google notifications, if you wanted to use your Android Wear smartwatch with the P8, you might be out of luck. Something about the way the software handles notifications keeps the Wear app from running properly, and I couldn't get it to work for more than a few minutes with my Moto 360. With two quad-core processors and 3GB of RAM at its disposal, it's no surprise that the P8 flies through just about any task you put it to. It's pretty tough to trip up with normal use, and even with demanding tasks like streaming high-res video or playing games, you won't see much hesitation, though media does have its troubles elsewhere. While performance is fine, the speaker is tinny, and though it gets plenty loud, it's easily muffled by the hand. The battery life also takes a major toll here. I was able to get over 5 hours of screen on time on days of just scrolling through Twitter and responding to emails and texts, but even just opening YouTube for a short while brought my average screen on time down to about 2.5 hours. The 13-megapixel camera is pretty good, with varying shooting modes and decent manual controls. It takes reasonably sharp photos, even in low light, and colors are fairly well balanced too, although nothing really seems to pop at you. Huawei's included a quick shutter that allows you to double press the volume down key when the display is off to immediately launch the camera and snap a photo, though this means that you can't frame the shot or focus on the subject beforehand. But what really impressed me was how well the additional shooting modes worked. Like the LG G4, the P8 has a few long exposure settings called light painting. I tried silky water on this miniature waterfall, and the result actually looks quite nice. There's also panorama mode, which does an excellent job at stitching together each angle you capture, so long as you have a steady hand. Video also looks good thanks to the P8's included OIS, but keep in mind that there's no option for 4K or slow motion, just 30 frame 1080p.
Without any context, we all look like a lost band or something.
Call quality in our testing around the Indianapolis metropolitan area sounded good for both ends of the call, and it's even pretty good on speakerphone. The only network problem we ran into with the P8 was its lack of LTE compatibility in the States, so 4G will have to do, but that's slightly offset by all of Huawei's antenna optimizations. The P8 connects to a network 33% faster at boot up than its fastest competition, and it intelligently switches you between your mobile and Wi-Fi networks depending on which connection is the strongest. The P8's gorgeous hardware is paired with powerful specs, speedy performance, a reliable camera, and a somewhat lacking software experience that leaves us thinking that a Nexus version would be outstanding. But until then, Huawei's version is still a good buy for the right kind of user, just so long as you don't use Android Wear. If you like the P8 and you want to know more about it, check out our written review at pocketnow.com, but subscribe to the channel first so you don't miss another video. Once again, I'm Hayato Huseman, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.